What it do, YouTube, man? It is your boy Solid back with another solid reaction. And today, man, we got Exposing Nick Wright. Lies about MJ, Michael Jordan himself, the G-O-A-T. Yes, sir. We're going to go ahead and check this one out, man. But, man, if this is your first time seeing your boy Solid on your screen, man, do your boy a favor, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notifications on so you never miss another Solid reaction. But we're going to get into this one, man. Y'all know Nick Wright is one of those people who is a criticist, bro. He always seems to hate the older game because this game is more, how I dare say, exciting is what I want to, is the word I want to use, but I don't really consider it exciting. You get what I'm saying? I'm saying I think the game today is just more of a scorer's league. So Nick Wright is one of those people who love the scoring. I love scoring too. It's great. But I also like the fact of defense. That is something that I really enjoy. So we're going to go ahead and check this one out, man. We're going to see what Nick Wright going to say, and then I'm going to come back and say what I got to say. But let's get into this one.
The longest running rivalry in NBA history involves Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
It spanned 30 plus years. It's seen 7 presidents and numerous dynasties rise and fall during this time period. Everyone knows Isaiah and MJ. They despise each other.
I had to make sure my sound was all the way up.
And the rivalry at this point will never end. And for today's video, we're going to listen to a LeBron James fan break down MJ versus Isaiah Thomas. As in a very small and condensed 50-second YouTube short, this LeBron James fan contorts logic, he lies constantly, and as you can imagine,
he said, I'm about to rip him a new one.
Negative light for Michael Jordan.
Okay.
There's a reason Jordan has such disgust for Isaiah. Isaiah's the only guy from his era that kind of has something over him. So Bird always beat Jordan in the playoffs, but nobody looked at that as a fair fight. It was Jordan's Bulls. They were brand new, terrible team. You didn't have Pippen, you know what I mean, for those series, and Bird's teams were awesome.
Okay.
Now, stopping the clip right there, Nick Wright had some pretty cute theories
I'm
saying
confused.
why Jordan hated the Pistons.
I don't think that's the reason why he ain't like the Pistons. It's pretty obvious he felt disrespected when they walked off the court without talking to him after they finally got over the hump. Every year they lost, they went and talked to him repeatedly, like, yo, let's go talk to him, let's shake each other's hand, let's go on. It was never about, oh, we had something on. No, Mike didn't care about that. It was the fact they didn't shake their hand, bro.
It's because those teams beat him in the playoffs. And while that is true, the main reason and the real factor of why Jordan hates Isaiah is because those Pistons teams were dirty and went over line when it came to defense. And looking at Isaiah, he was the unquestioned leader of Detroit. Yep. He was their instigator, and the guy behind the scenes pulling the strings for the bad boy Pistons.
Got him in the air.
And looking at someone like Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, and the bad boys enforcers,
it's 3 of them. Look at this.
Those guys for Isaiah were basically hitmen sent out to punish Michael Jordan. I think it's pretty universal. If you have 2 guys trying to kill you and take your head off and take pleasure in doing so, you're not going to like those guys or the one guy behind them telling them to do so.
Exactly.
And I do find it pretty hilarious Nick Wright, in under 20 seconds, debunks his own theory. As Jordan versus the Boston Celtics, just like versus Isaiah, did not have a winning record. And actually, Jordan versus Boston and Larry Bird never won one game when it came to the playoffs. And looking at someone like Larry Bird back in the 80s, why Jordan didn't hate him, despite losing to him, is because Boston wasn't nearly as dirty as Detroit. And let's be honest for 1 second, when it comes to hating the Pistons, that was an entire NBA thing, not just Jordan and the Bulls. The Celtics hated them, the Lakers hated them, superstars hated them, benchwarmers hated them, the fans hated them, even the NBA commissioner.
But that's not what they tell you about. They just say, oh, Mike didn't like him. They don't tell you that Charles Barkley also got off into Isaiah's ass. That Isaiah and Charles still don't talk sometime to this day. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Or the fact that Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas really don't get along either. These are the things that they don't talk about. They just want to put it on Mike and say, well, Mike don't like nobody, so it has to be him. It has to be him.
And looking back at Nick Wright for 1 second, one more lie he told is that Jordan versus the Pistons was a fair fight, and Jordan versus Bird and the Celtics was not.
Yeah.
Now look, when it comes to Jordan versus Bird, that was one guy versus 5 Hall of Famers, and Nick in that regard is correct. But when it comes to Detroit, in those first 2 series Jordan played them, it was far from a fair series.
Exactly.
And looking at 1988,
Did you
Jordan's
see the
first
team
time
Mike
playing the
had?
Pistons in the playoffs, this series was far from a fair fight, as Jordan individually averaged 27, 9, and 5.
And the
led
next
his
person
team in
was like at
points,
like 4
assists,
points. Oh no, 5
steals,
points, I think.
and was
5 or
second
6 points.
in rebounds. For that series, he had no teammate average above 13 points per game.
13, okay.
He had no all-star help.
None.
And his best teammate was Sam Vincent, a career
Scotty
backup
was still up
who
and
played for
coming,
the
so I
Boston
want people to
Celtics.
understand that.
And looking at someone like Scottie Pippen,
Yeah,
he
he was
was
still-
on this team, but he was a lowly rookie,
Yeah.
averaging 9 points per game. Detroit at this point
And those
went
9
6
points
guys
helped.
deep and had tons of great talent.
Trust me.
From Isaiah
Oh,
Thomas,
good cross.
Adrian
Good pulley.
Dantley, Joe Dumars,
Good
Bill
pulley.
Laimbeer, Vinnie Johnson, all the way till Dennis Rodman. And before you guys say it, this Pistons team was not old, something Nick Wright loves to state. As looking at all those players, not one of them was above the age of 32, and most of them were in their mid to late 20s.
Oh, good.
Adding that very important context, this
Look at
88
Mike's
series
jump
was
floater. Oh
far
my
from a fair
God.
fight. And looking at Jordan's second matchup versus the Pistons in
good knockdown.
89, this once again was a lopsided matchup, as Jordan in the series averaged 37 and 6, leading his team in
Dang, he
points,
damn near averaged 30
assists,
points in the
as
series.
well as steals. His best teammate for the series was Craig Hodges, a spot-up three-point shooter.
Who? I had to do that. Who? Nah, I actually like Craig Hodges. But most people don't know. Like, if you ask a player who don't really like watch basketball or really like get into it or like study it, you say, man, Craig Hodges was the only player on Mike's team that back then that was over 10 points a game. Niggas go, who? But I know, because, you know, Glass Hodges, boy. Glass Hodges? Hey. But different. But Cartwright, yeah, we'll give Cartwright his flowers. Scotty was still trying to figure out his feet in the league. I feel like he needed to hang around Mike more before he got there. So necessary. Seller, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who Seller is neither. Horace Grant, okay, I know who Horace is. Yeah, Horace Grant was a good. I think he was decent. I'm not gonna say he was great, but he was decent. He did play his role very good on those Bulls teams. Paxson only had 5 points. Yo, what? Okay, I guess I oversold Johnny.
And once again, Scottie Pippen, he was a sophomore, but far from a great player, averaging 10 points per game on barely above 40% shooting. Michael Jordan, basically going solo, took this Pistons team to 6 games and handed them their only 2 losses of the entire playoffs. And once again, this Pistons team was all-time great, having the best record in the East, having a top 10 defense, top 10 offense, had 4 All-Stars, plus Dennis.
See, but they don't talk about, I think, what was the Bulls this year? I think they were like I want to say, this was 80. What year did he say? You know what? I'm not even going to quote it because I don't want to lie to y'all. That's what we're going to do.
This right here is the little lies Nick Wright throws in.
I want to say
go
they were like
unnoticed,
the 5th seed.
ignored, or simply unchecked. And I hope with that very quick breakdown, you guys understand. Jordan versus Detroit, those first 2 series, it was not a fair fight and an even matchup.
Isaiah played him 4 times in the playoffs, won 3 of those series. Overall, the record's 12 and 10. Yes, Jordan got the last one, and they swept him that year. But Isaiah was not on a super team. Now, I'm not disrespecting the Pistons. You know.
At what point was the Bulls ever a super team? Please let me know that. When were the Bulls a super team? To me, this is just me personally. A super team is going out and buying players to bring to your organization. And I'm not talking one player. I'm talking several players that were not drafted by your organization. We got the only person that's not from our organization that they consider part of that is probably Dennis Rodman. That's one player. A super team is like LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. That's a super team. Only person who was drafted by the Heat was Wade. You get what I'm saying? Let's go to the Cleveland. Reason why the Celtics. Reason why they call that is because I think Paul Pierce and Paul Pierce and somebody else were both drafted by the Celtics. Paul Pierce. It's somebody else. No, it's not Ray Allen. It's the other guy. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Jesus Christ, it's facing in my head. But it's the other guy. Them two. But then they went and got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. So that's another super team. And I didn't even talk about that team. And yeah, that's Ray Allen too down there in the Heat. And then you come over to the Lakers, bro. And you go get Anthony Davis, Westbrook, and stuff like that. That's a super team. Same thing with Brooklyn. Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie. That's a super team. The Warriors are not a super team. As much as you want to hate it, it's the facts. Warriors are not a super team because they drafted every part of their team. Now, you can probably say, well, they got Wiggins now. Wiggins, everybody thought was trash. They thought he was garbage. So they threw him away. So, I mean, you got to give him what he got, bro.
The respect I have for those teams. But there wasn't another superstar there. There wasn't another top 50 player there. Now, there was top 75 because they put Rodman on there, but he wasn't there originally.
So, stopping Nick right there, I want to clarify, when it comes to quote-unquote super teams, that phrase is highly subjective. And when it comes to a universal rule of what a super team is, I would say everyone says the 80s Lakers and the 80s Celtics were indeed super teams, as they had multiple All-Stars, great defense, high-powered offense, as well as a Hall of Fame coach.
I guess I'm different in that way.
I
guess I'm different in that way because I think a super team is on when you go and buy players. I don't consider it when you draft great players. There's nothing wrong with me drafting great players and me being good. There's something wrong with me going out and buying great players and then we win the championship. That's buying a ring. You know what I'm saying?
Like top 75 or top 50 all time, those things in the grand scheme of things, they mean nothing. And I do want to hammer it home. Terms like top 75 and top 50 are ranking individuals and not teams. For example, the 2016 Warriors technically weren't a super team by Knicks standards, as on that roster, they only had one top 75 player en route to winning 73 games.
Oh yeah, got
Now
him.
look, for Nick Wright,
Got him.
he classifies that Golden State team as a super team and a crowning achievement for LeBron James and his overall career. And we'll even go as far as saying LeBron winning that championship counts as 2 rings. That right there alone...
Oh, get the hell out of here. He really tried. He stretched the shit out of that so he could get with Mike.
Exposes Nick Wright, his
It counts
hypocrisy,
as 2
and
rings
his double
'cause he beat the
standards.
Warriors.
But looking
No,
past
it
that,
counts as 1.
when it comes to Detroit Pistons and the bad boy era, from 87 to 91, this team was eerily close, if not a super team, by most fans' standards. As in 88, they beat Larry Bird's Celtics, who were a top team in the Eastern Conference, still had a big 3, and the following year in 89, beat Magic's Lakers, who also had a big 3. And looking at the Pistons roster individually, Isaiah Thomas, during this time period, was a 5-time All-Star, 1-time Finals MVP, and the second best point guard, only behind Magic.
Yo.
At shooting guard, you had Joe Dumars, a
Good.
2-time All-Star, 3-time All-Defensive, and 1-time Finals
Dumars
MVP
was
in
different.
his 5-year gap. And defensively, you had Dennis Rodman, a 3-time All-Defensive player, a 1-time All-Star, and back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year.
And Bill
And of course,
Laimbeer.
the enforcer, you had Bill Laimbeer, was a 1-time All-Star during this 5-year period. Those 4 guys right there on their own could classify as an NBA super team. But looking at the rest of the roster, you also had Mark Aguirre, who prior to being traded, was a 2-time All-Sar, averaging 25 points per game.
Pass. Oh, you
On
gotta
the
finish.
Pistons, he was more of a heat check player, averaging around 15. And of course, on the bench, we had the ultimate heat check player, that being Vinnie Johnson, who was a top tier 6-man during this 5-year time period. And before I forget, their coach was a Hall of Famer in Chuck Daly, who was picked to coach the Dream Team. If this team right here isn't a super team, I don't know what is.
Isaiah's the one guy that played in Jordan's prime in his era that Jordan knows, he would never admit it, but that Isaiah can look him in the eye and say, I got the better of you.
No.
I find this clip pretty funny for a couple of reasons. As Nick Wright, he's one of the big pushers. The team accomplishments don't matter in the grand scheme of things. But when it comes to Isaiah Thomas versus Michael Jordan, winning games, winning championships, and especially series, they somehow matter to Nick Wright. Compare that to someone like LeBron James. When LeBron makes the finals or wins the Eastern Conference, that is deemed a LeBron accomplishment. But less than 3 weeks later, when LeBron loses that final series, that is deemed a team failure and not a LeBron failure.
Yeah.
I hope by now Nick Wright is thoroughly exposed and his double standards are definitely highlighted. And looking back at Isaiah and Jordan versus the Pistons, no matter how good their defense was, still dominated, averaging 31 points, having 9 40-point games, 1 50-point game, and 1 game scoring 60.
Oh, yeah.
And compared to Isaiah, he leads him in points,
perfect
rebounds,
release,
steals, blocks, field goal percentage, 3 percentage, as well as free throw percentage. Michael Jordan versus the Bad Boy Pistons thoroughly dominated them from individual perspective. And contrary to popular belief, those first 2 series versus Detroit were not fair fights like I showed you guys. And my last point for this video isn't even about Jordan or Isaiah Thomas. It's about Nick Wright. As in less than a minute clip, he lied at least 5 times, left context out 1,000,000 times, and contorted logic to the nth degree.
Oh, yeah.
This guy right here is a used car salesman of NBA analysts. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, my fault. All right, man. That is the end of this video. I think Nick Wright just needs to shut up sometimes. Some people just don't know what they're talking about. And me included, sometimes I talk about stuff I don't know what I'm talking about. But, man, that's just what it is. But Nick Wright just he can't just be talking if you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's the real talk. And I like how he broke it down. Like, nah, bro, see, you talked about this and this is wrong. And then you talked about this and this is wrong. He basically went through that man's whole little 2-second clip and gave him everything he did wrong. It was like, nah, you see, he said this and this. You negated yourself right here because you say this all the time, but then you do this. But, man, thank y'all guys for checking out this video, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video, man. Y'all take it easy now. Peace.